Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another great edition of my Grue Rume Show. For the Grue Rume Show today, I'm very excited to bring to you a guest, and he's a bass player. He's a rock and roll legend, an icon, and he's with Alice Cooper Band. Well, I mean, he's off and on with the Alice Cooper Band, and his name is Dennis Dunaway. And we're going to talk all about the songs that he made with Alice Cooper, the brand new album, the Revenge of Alice Cooper, which it has topped the charts in multiple charts for the rock charts. So we're going to talk all about the new album, about the past songs with Alice Cooper, and it's going to be a fun time. I am Rocco Cross. I am the host at Stutters. I am the host of the Grue Rume Show, and my interview with rock and roll legend Dennis Dunaway will be coming up very soon. This is my Grue Rume, and as always, my Gruelings. Welcome to my nightmare. So stay tuned and rock on. Hey. All right, buddy. Welcome to Grue, and thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to start asking you, basic question, like, is what in inspired you to want to start playing bass? Like, who were some of the artists that inspired you?
Well, the reason I play bass is because Alice and I started a band before we even knew what we were going to play in the band. And we decided Alice would be the singer because he couldn't keep track of anything. So we figured he'd always forget his instrument and he could remember lyrics. So, he would play harmonica and always we had to keep track of them for him, and he had a tambourine and we had to keep track of that. But anyway, so Glenn Buxton already played guitar, and then the other guy who was on our track team, John Spear, decided that he wanted to be the drummer. So bass was what was left by the time I decided, and that's why I play bass. But I had a record player that was so cheap that I couldn't even tell what the bass was on a record. I'd play records and but then if I heard a jukebox, then it was all bass. So I was
Yeah.
excited about that. But then when I would go over to Glenn Buxton's house and he would help me, learn how to tune the instrument and all of that. We would play mostly early Rolling Stones, um, and then we would pick up on like the Pretty Things and the Kinks and
Yeah.
the Who and then eventually the Yardbirds. So all of those people, Paul McCartney too, even though we didn't do that many Beatles songs, he was an inspiration. But my biggest inspiration was John Paul. I mean, Paul Samwell Smith of the Yardbirds,
Yes.
because everybody talks about the guitar players in the Yardbirds, but he was equally as progressive and eye-opening because I realized that bass didn't have to just play root notes and blues patterns. I realized that I could do anything I wanted.
And I saw a post like you actually were on the same bill as the the Yardbirds, and that must have been great. That must have been a great experience.
Oh my gosh, they were our heroes. Now, they were brand new in America, and a lot of people that were in Phoenix, Arizona, had no clue who they were. And but a friend of Glenn's, this guy Mike Fuss, sent away to England and got a Yardbirds album, and so we loved the album so much we learned a bunch of their songs, even though we didn't know much about the group. It was all pretty mysterious and limited to the liner notes on that album. But so when we opened for the Yardbirds, we played Yardbirds songs. and, that's how young we were. We didn't know. We thought we were tributing our heroes, but of course, and the thing is, We had such a solid fan base at the club because we were the house band.
Hmm.
Uh, and we had played these songs for a while that there were some kids that thought the Yardbirds were doing our songs when they came on. And also the club held legally 900 people, but we'd pack 1,000 in there. And it's hot in Arizona, so a lot of times people would go outside, even though sometimes it's almost just as hot outside. But when the Yardbirds went on stage, a bunch of people left. We played to a bigger crowd than they did. And so years later, and also Chris Drasia, rest in peace, I was impressed with how tight he played all of these really fast rhythm guitar parts. But so yeah, we opened for our heroes. Years later, Alice talked to Jeff Beck about this, and so did I. And he said, you know, they thought nobody would have a clue who they were, and then the opening band do their songs. Of course, when they got up there musically, they mopped the floor with us. It was incredible.
Oh my God. And around that time, like the huge band, the big band was the Beatles. Like, did you ever get a chance to like to hang out with them or like be on the same bill as them?
No, no. Well, we were on the same bill with John Lennon
Oh,
in
nice.
Rock and Roll Revival in Toronto in 1969. Yeah, so John and Yoko with Eric Clapton and Klaus Vorman and various musicians, they kind of talked John into doing this festival. And it was such a last minute decision for him that on the airplane, they were rehearsing what songs they were going to do. And also when we were ready to go on stage, Glenn's amp was missing because they had taken it into John's dressing room so they could rehearse. And we had to get our amp back, and they also took our pillows that we wanted to rip open. There's actually a film about that. It's called Revival 69. And it was the Doors and us were the only, new bands on the block. Everything else was like Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Chuck Berry. All of those people were on in the show. And we actually got to back up Gene Vincent, which
Yeah.
was a big honor for us.
Wow, that's awesome. And like you mentioned the Doors and I heard like you were actually friends with like Jim Morrison and the band, right?
Yeah, yeah. To this day, Robbie plays on the new Alice Cooper album that we just released, The Revenge
Oh,
of
wow.
Alice Cooper. A song called Black Mamba, which
Yeah.
is like it's kind of like a New Orleans voodoo-ish kind of a feel about a black mamba snake being in somebody's bed. And we figured since Glenn was friends with Robbie and because Glenn would have played slide on it, actually, Glenn played slide with a spoon, and that started the first time he ever did that was that show in 1966 with the Yardbirds,
Wow.
because because we used to do these different themes, and we wanted to do something theatrical that was different every set, and we would do like 4 sets a weekend. But that particular show, we went in the kitchen and we had plastic forks and stuff stuck in our hair and napkins sticking out of our pockets. And Glenn had taken the tray of silverware and then he used the spoon to play slide. So anyway, Robbie doesn't play with a spoon that I know of, but he's an amazing slide player, and the slinky feel that he does on Black Mamba just sends chills up my spine.
Oh my God. That's an amazing song. Like I listened to that song. Like the the new album's great. Like I love it.
Oh, thank you very much. We had,
Yeah.
we had a blast doing that.
And, and And like you said, like how you and Alice started out with covering songs and stuff. And when did
Yeah.
you when did you decide to like turn the band and the Alice Cooper band and make it into like a horror type band and the amazing like scary stage show and went and turning it into a shock rock horror fest.
Well, all the way back Halloween 1964 at Cortez High School, we that was the first show where we had learned to play our instruments well enough to play a whole dance. And it was Halloween, and Alice and I came up with the concept and everything. It was called The Pit and the Pendulum, after
Oh
Edgar
yeah,
Allan Poe.
yeah, yeah.
And we had Alice and I made we would get the girls in the art class to help us, but we made tombstones out of paper mache and painted them with different funny, somebody died here and it would be something comical. Usually Alice came up with those. And then we got refrigerator boxes and we made coffins and painted them to look like wood. And then we got clothesline, white clothesline, and we strung giant spider webs on the front of the stage. And then a friend of ours, Scott Ward, his father was a carpenter, and we got him to make a guillotine. So that was in 1964.
Oh my
So
God.
basically, uh, it was all along. We kept the kind of a creepy thing, but when we uh, started writing songs, so we were a cover band, and then at one point we started doing mostly covers of album cuts. So the audience would think that they were originals because nobody had the album, Pretty Things album or whatever. And and so we thought, oh, okay, we're given the illusion that we're originals, but we're picking the best album cuts of all these different British invasion bands. And then when Michael got in the band, uh, he 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 pushed Alice and I to start writing. And the
Oh,
very first song we wrote was called "Don't Blow Your Mind," and it went to number 11 on AM radio in Tucson, Arizona. And we were a big deal in the Southwest, like a garage band, but we'd
yeah.
play around and whenever we would do that song, people would jump up and down and recognize it. So when we went to LA, we we were kind of giving up already being successful, but it was a garage band style and there were other garage bands. We decided when we got to LA, we wanted to do something that was different than any other band. And that's because when Alice and I decided to start the band, we were in art class and we wanted to start a band that included artistic ideas like Salvador Dali or the pop art movement in New York City. And so, and then being theatrical uh, just came about because, like in Arizona, we would do a show and we would have they were uh, they were redoing the bathroom at the venue where we always played, the VIP lounge. And
Nice.
so we took the toilet and put it on stage. And then there was an iron bathtub, with the claw feet and
Yeah,
everything. This thing
yeah.
weighed a ton. And Alice got in the bathtub in the front and he's pointing like George Washington crossing the Delaware. And we heave-hoed this thing through the crowd up to the stage. And then Alice did the show. And then he got back in at the end of the set. And then we heave-hoed it all the way back to the bathroom. And then, practically died from backaches and thinking, whose
I'm
idea
sure.
was this? So, so all of these theatrical ideas, we had a million of them. That's
Oh
all
my
we did.
God.
Think about these theatrical ideas. The problem was we didn't have any money. We could barely eat. So the theatrics generally in the early days, even as Alice Cooper touring America and playing all the dive clubs, uh, it would be whatever we could find out in the alley, so garbage cans made it into the show, and whatever wasn't bolted down.
Yeah, yeah, because growing up, like my parents, like my dad, like I would listen to Alice Cooper and the Doors and the Beatles, the Stones, and I remember growing up listening to Alice Cooper and I loved it. And when I went to my first Alice Cooper show, like, because I'm a huge horror fan, and when I went to my first Alice Cooper show and saw the stage and the hanging heads on the stage and demon babe babies and killing the nurse and the guillotine and Frankenstein, and I was like in like shock. I was like, "Oh my God, this is my favorite show ever."
So basically, that was that 1964 Halloween Pit and the Pendulum, only now with a budget,
Yeah, 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 exactly.
where you didn't have to make everything yourself.
Yes. And like how does that feel? Because like you guys basically paved the way for like Marilyn Manson and Slipknot and bands that have like Zombie, like those kind of bands that have like the shock rock and the horror vibe.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm very proud of that, of course, but we had our influences too. I got to hang out with Dave Davies of the Kinks the other night, and he told me that the first thing he said before he even really realized who I was is that Under My Wheels was his favorite all-time Alice Cooper
Oh yeah.
song. And his girlfriend asked me if I played on that one. And I said, yeah, and I wrote it. And then Dave Davies got all delighted and happy and gave me a fist bump. So I'm thinking, oh boy, talk about payback, because Alice and I were telling Dave Davies, are you kidding? We're not worthy, man. We did
Yeah, yeah.
every Kinks song. We covered most every Kinks song on their early albums.
Oh my God, wow. And like being like a horror based band, are you like a big horror fan? Like, are there any horror films that you like to watch?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love Frankenstein and Dracula. All of the original, classics are my very favorite. In fact, I wish I looked like Frankenstein's monster. I need some big giant boots and I need a thing through my neck. But and I met Sarah Karloff, Boris Karloff's daughter. She
Oh
was
yeah.
amazing. Uh, but but also Alice and I used to go to the drive-in outdoors in Phoenix, Arizona before we even knew we were going to start a band, and we would see Psycho, and we saw one that was called Tales of Terror, and it was three
Yes.
Edgar Allan Poe, the Telltale Heart and a couple
Hmm.
others, the one where somebody gets buried alive. So, which might be Telltale Heart. I can't remember now. They kind of blur together. But so, yeah, absolutely. We loved the horror, even though when we landed in LA, we were more just a total vaudeville psychedelic sideshow, because we were putting so many things into each show that people would walk out with their heads spinning. They didn't know what they just saw. But we did one song that's on the Pretty's for You album called Fields of Regret, where Alice played this dark character. And that was our most popular song. In fact, we would do it at the end of the show, and the only people in the audience that hadn't left, would be the ones that wanted to hear that song. So when we stopped doing that song, I told Alice we have to do some more of that character,
Hmm.
and which meant that um, we needed to improve our writing skills to be able to come up with songs that would accommodate that character. And on our second album, Easy Action, we Lay Down and Die Goodbye was supposed to be that, and it had this big scary instrumental sound collage in the middle, but the singing didn't really, it was too lightweight. So we weren't able to come up with the goods on that one. But by the time we got to Love It to Death, Michael in particular had woodshedded a lot and learned how to write songs.
Oh,
Uh, and so did I. So I wrote Black Juju specifically for Alice to develop that character. And Neil came up with Hallowed Be My Name, and
yeah.
Michael came up with Ballad of Dwight Fry. So we
Oh, yeah.
finally learned how to write well enough to be able to say, okay, this is the kind of song I'm going to write. And then we would write it. Where on Pretty's for You is kind of like firing a shotgun at a page of musical, and then see what the notes are. It's like we'd write a song and be surprised at what it turned out to be. We didn't have that much ability to say, okay, this is the kind of song we're going to write, and then write it.
Hmm.
So, uh, and then the more I talked Alice into doing that character, the more courage he got as a singer, and the more commanding he got, because now it's not him, it's this character.
Well, yeah.
And so that gave him the courage to face an audience and to step in, and he obviously did an amazing job at becoming that character.
Oh man. And the Love It to Death album, that's like one of my favorite favorite albums of Alice Cooper, and it's just like it's such a great album, like every song. And out of all the albums of Alice Cooper, is there like an album that means most to you?
Well, it's hard. This is like choosing your favorite
I
child.
know,
It's
I know.
impossible. But my heart is with Pretty's for You, because it was
Okay.
just so artistic. Even though we recorded it from midnight to sunup on 2 nights, so it didn't get a fair shake as far as production. And also Frank Zappa didn't show up the second night, the producer, right? But my heart is with that because it's just so spitting in the face of commercialism. It's pure art. But uh, even though you say Love It to Death, so when we walked in the studio for Love It to Death, we were a miracle because no band got a third chance to do an album.
Oh,
We had Pretty's for You barely made the charts, and Easy Action barely made the charts, and we got a third chance. So even though Bob Ezrin was helping us whip our songs into shape, we walked in not popping any champagne because we knew this could be our third strike and that would be the
mm,
end of us. But when we walked into the studio for Killer, we had a hit song, 18 under our belt.
yes.
Now we were every firing on all cylinders. The band was still in total control of our artistic ideas, and with Bob Ezrin's help. Uh, so I have to go with Killer.
Okay. Okay. And elected and scores out, like elected gets played during the elections, and scores out is basically the anthem when you want to run out of school, like the end of the school year. And how does that feel, like to have like these two songs that like play at elections and then schools out, like being the school that every kid that the song that every kid sings when they're like running out of school.
It's unbelievable. I mean, that was our goal. If we write schools out, then whenever school is out, then they'll play it. But we had no idea that 50 years later they'd still be doing that. Uh, and and also it's great because uh, our fan base is mostly, people that are older that remember, seeing us back in the old days. But we have a very young fan base because of that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I even know teachers that, even though it has the "No More Teachers Dirty Looks" part, uh, they still find that affectionate because over the intercom at almost every school on the last minute of school, last few minutes, they play that song, and even
Yeah.
though that doesn't chalk up to royalties necessarily, it's still something that I love. I'm very proud of that.
Oh yeah. And like you you wrote the song, right? The Skulls
Oh,
Out
we
song.
all wrote it. Uh, we, because I'm 18, targeted that specific age group, which the record company, Warner Brothers, told us that's who buys the most records. Somebody that's still living at home and has a job. So,
Sure.
they have money to buy records. And then on the Killer album, "Be My Lover" and "Under My Wheels" didn't, even though Dave Davies liked it, uh, they didn't quite reach the heights that "Schools Out" did. So then on the Killer out, yeah, on the "Schools Out" album, we said, oh, we got to target that age again. And it was almost like the song wrote itself because we all
Hmm.
went to school. Michael Bruce's school was a stone's throw from Cortez High School, where Glenn and Alice and I went. And Camelback High was a stone's throw where Neil Smith went. And we all went to school the same years in the same area of the country. So it was a no-brainer, even though, we got stuck on one lyric. And I said, "Hey guys, we're the kids at the back of the class. We can't even think of a word that rhymes." And that became the lyric.
Oh my God. Okay. And I know like on like the later out the albums of Alice Cooper, like you came and did like a song or two like on an album. Like I think you did like the bonus track on the power 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 paranormal album, and the the Hey Stupid album, Love's a Loaded Gun. Like that's like one of my like all-time favorite songs.
Yeah, that one wasn't mine though. That, I mean, we didn't play on the album with "Hey Stupid." We were each, Michael, Neil, and I each did a song for Alice's paranormal album,
Yes.
uh, Detroit Stories, and another. Oh, "Welcome to My Nightmare."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but "Love Is a Loaded Gun" wasn't one of them. It was we did "I Hate You" and uh, "I'll Bite Your Face Off," I think was on that one. That was Neil's song. And
Nice.
oh, when Hell Comes Home, that was Michael's song.
Oh, nice.
And my song was "Runaway Train" on that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we were on the album, and Neil and I also played on the Hollywood Vampires album. We redid
Oh,
"Schools Out." So so we're called into the studio in New York City, Neil and I, and it was all these different people played on it, Slash and Brian Johnson from AC/DC and
yeah.
all these different people. But it was interesting because when we got to the studio, the guy that ran that studio said, "My father is the one that booked you guys into the record plant in New York City for when you did this song originally." And now it's
Oh,
the next,
God.
so the next time Neil and I record that song in the studio is all these years later, and it's that his father, and now it's his son studio.
Wow. Wow, that's
Uh,
that's awesome.
but all of that is like over the years, I've sent songs to Neil and Michael and Alice, and Uh, and for various reasons, a song will be chosen
Yeah.
or not chosen because they have to choose songs that fit together for the album, for one thing. Um, but it's interesting because some of the songs that are on this new The Revenge of Alice Cooper are songs that I've sent to Alice and Bob Ezrin maybe every 5 years. I would send it to him again, and every time Bob would forget that he had ever heard it before. But then he would have a different reason why the song didn't fit what they were doing. And then for this album, I sent him the couple of the songs, and he's go, Dan, this is great. Why didn't you ever play this for me before? And I'm like, well, I haven't told him that he's heard it a lot of times, but
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask too. Like the brand new album that's out, Revenge of Alice Cooper. Like, how did that all come about and get everyone back on the same page and playing it?
oh, a lot of things. I mean, 2011, we were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That brought us together for rehearsals and performance. And then we do the Alice's Christmas Pudding Show out in Phoenix, Arizona for the teen centers. There's three of them now. They're great. Ages 12 to 20. People can just walk in there and learn how to play bass, learn how
Oh,
to
wow.
produce records, learn how to dance, learn how to do art, all kinds of stuff. It's really cool. In fact, the original band will be playing at this upcoming on November 15th at the Celebrity Theater in Phoenix, Arizona. The original band with Jazzy, who is the guitar player that plays on Revenge of Alice Cooper. So we will be performing at that show. But those shows previous to us doing this album helped bring us together. And then this guy, Christopher Todd Penn, who passed away recently, he had a record store in Dallas, Texas. And when my book came out in 2015, he talked me into doing an in-store book signing event. And then I decided he said he had a stage there, and would I perform? And I said, well, how about if we get Michael and Neil out there? And then that turned into, we found out that he had planned it on a particular day because Alice had a day off. Yeah, Alice was on tour, and and so Chris talked Alice into doing a surprise performance, and it's called
Oh,
Live from the AstroTurf. They filmed it. We didn't know it was being filmed or recorded, for that matter. Uh, we didn't even really rehearse for it, but it's a movie, and we did the movie circuit promoting it, and it won all kinds of awards. But it's called Live from the AstroTurf, Alice Cooper, because Chris would always have AstroTurf on his stage, but for us, he traded the green AstroTurf for pink AstroTurf because of the pink panties on the cover of my book, Snakes, Guillotines, Electric Chairs, My Adventures in the Alice Cooper Group. So that was, 10 years ago, but it had a lot to do. And my book brought back a lot of good memories for the other band members. Um, but I think the biggest thing is because Neil lives in Connecticut, but he is a snowbird. So he goes out to Phoenix, Arizona during the winter. And
okay.
he'll get together with Michael, maybe at Michael's studio or maybe at the Solid Rock Teen Center studio. And they'll just have fun kicking around ideas. And then whenever Alice is in town, Alice would join them.
Oh, wow.
And I think that was the final straw that Alice got all excited about these songs that they had come up with, and they gave me a call. So then I went out there, and Bob Ezrin said, "Let's do this. Dennis, you go out and just you guys, without me, go in the studio and see if you can get it back together or whatever." And there was no getting it back together. We walked in, and It was the same as always, us
No.
walking around and on we wrote Black Mamba, we did Wild Ones, we did Intergalactic Vagabond Blues, and maybe even another one or two uh, during those couple of days. And so then everything went really quiet. This long stretch of nothing happening, and then we started trading songs, and oh my gosh, Neil and I had like so many songs. It's unbelievable. The hard thing is we couldn't decide, we couldn't narrow it down.
Yeah.
We had like 60 songs, and we couldn't
Oh
decide
my God.
which 10 songs we wanted to focus on. So when it finally, and then there would be another long wait. But then finally, Bob booked a studio in Connecticut, Carriage House Studios, which is great. Neil and I have worked there a lot over the years, and Michael has even done stuff there. But I thought we were going to go in the studio and just decide what songs we were going to whip into shape.
Yeah.
No, we showed up and we just started laying down tracks, and Bob had booked 5 days. I mean, let's see. Yeah, Bob had booked, I think, 10 days, thinking we would get 5 songs out of it, something like that. But anyway, we got 12 songs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And when we got done the next day after the dust settled and everybody had gone home, uh, I couldn't have named half the songs that we did. That's how fast we did them. But man, we were having so much fun. It was all locked in, lots of humor, but we also know exactly what each guy's going to do.
Hmm.
I know what Michael's going to do, and I know what Neil's going to do. I don't even have to look at them really, even though we do. And we recorded it all in the same room. Alice is standing next to me. I'm standing next to Neil, and Michael's sitting right there. So just like we used to. And Bob Ezrin is in the control room. So so that's how we always used to record. And then if we get the drum track, then we can overdub everything. That's kind of
Okay.
standard. But we ended up getting the drum tracks and all of the bass tracks. Michael redid his guitar parts when he got back to Phoenix because that's where he has his amplifier with the sound that he likes, and which is standard. That's what we did back in the old days. Michael and Glenn used to redo all of their parts pretty much. And then and then Alice, who sang the songs in the studio while we recorded them for
Hmm.
reference, then as he's out on the road in Los Angeles, Bob Ezrin would catch up with him when their schedules would uh, accommodate that and line up. And then I'd get a call. Hey, Den, what's the deal with this lyric here? Can we change it? And what do you think? Got any ideas? So stuff like that. And they do it on the spot. Uh, so then the album's done, and then there's another long wait, and we're not allowed to talk about this. We kept this thing a secret since 2021.
Oh my
You know?
God.
Yeah, I know. I was ready to explode. so so but still, over the years, there have been rumors that we were going to do an album with the original group back together, and everybody would be excited, including Alice, and then it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So we kind of had the once bitten, twice shy thing going, where we're not popping any champagne until the album is actually in my hand.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So then Neil came up with some ideas for the title, but all of his ideas had the word revenge. And then Alice,
Okay.
the Revenge of Alice Cooper. Okay. And then Alice said, I know the perfect guy to do the album cover. And it's this guy, Graham from Britain who did, I think, Night of the Living Dead or something, but he's done a lot of B horror film posters. And this album cover fits right in with
Oh, it does.
all of the artwork that he's done.
Yeah, like when I first saw like,
Graham Humphreys is his name.
oh, nice. When I first saw like the art for for like I automatically said, yeah, this is something to do with horror, like old school horror films, and the
Exactly.
album cover was amazing.
Exactly. And nobody knows why Michael has a lobster claw, but I told him he should wear one around in real life for a while.
Exactly.
Help promote the album.
And when this album came out, like it went to the top of the charts on so many different rock charts, like all over the world.
Yeah,
And
seven. I think it was number one in 7 countries at the same time.
yes, yeah, like it that like you can tell like the rock fans have been waiting like long for this because like as soon as it came out, like it topped like all the rock charts.
Yeah, and it was pretty miraculous that we kept it a secret until it came out.
True.
Yeah, um, so because we had so many songs, there's talk of us possibly doing another one. So we're excited about that.
Wow, sweet. Nice.
I did feel like I had like uh, quite a few of my songs that should have made it on the album, but because we were kind of just flying by the seat of our pants in the studio, we didn't even know what song we were going to do next until we all discussed it and jumped into it. Uh, so we had enough songs to do 5 albums. So so we'll see. I'm hoping that that will happen. But meanwhile, I'm so happy with this album because people wanted it to sound like Love It to Death, or they wanted it to sound
Mhm.
like Killer or whatever. But uh, but it is like those albums
It
in
is.
it's unexpected. It doesn't have anything that you would expect us to do. I mean, there are the flavor of it, but but that's what I like about it. We didn't try to do something other than what we do. You know,
Yeah.
we weren't we weren't in the studio saying, "Oh man, we got to make this sound like Love It to Death." No, we were just like deciding, "Hey, oh, I like that riff. Let's work up that one." So next thing you know, we're like making up a song in the studio, including the one "What Happened to You," which I had all of these years a cassette tape from 1973 of Glenn Buxton and me playing a riff that Glenn had, this guitar riff,
Oh,
this angry, Glenn was like an angry hornet when he played, I thought. And I always thought, okay, I can't let this get near a magnet or anything, and I got to keep it in a good conditions because I'm going to finish that song for Glenn someday. And I didn't know it would take this long, but so I gave it to Bob Ezrin. And with today's technology, you can clean it up. And then, so Bob Ezrin uh, cleaned up the riff and then put a click track. So in the studio, we decided, well, let's finish that song on the spot. And so we wrote a song really fast that we thought Glenn would have liked. Uh, and Glenn's guitar part is on that part of the thing, and
great.
he gets a writer's credit. So Glenn is very heavily represented on this album, which I'm very proud of. What a Sid, the jazzy tune is about Glenn. Uh, of course, Whatever Happened to You, Glenn plays on.
Hmm.
See You on the Other Side is a song that Neil started right after he found out that Glenn had passed away in
Oh.
1997. And Neil played me what he had of it, and then I joined him and we co-wrote it. So, and then I Ain't Done Wrong, which is a Yardbirds song that we covered because Jeff Beck had just passed away at that point.
Hmm.
And that was like one of Glenn's favorite songs to play when we were the Spiders. So
Nice.
this album goes along, and then all of a sudden it kind of takes a bit of a detour in my mind because of the song order. All of a sudden it gets more and more Glenn Buxton to the very end.
Nice. I when I was listening to it, like when I saw the song come up, see you on the other side, I thought like you were covering Ozzy.
Well, we it is specific to Glenn. There's some, especially the first verse, it's pretty specific to Glenn, but we didn't pin it down. We didn't like etch it in stone because I felt that, and Neil felt that this could be something that anybody thought about, a friend that's gone, and you're hoping someday you could get together in some way.
Yeah. Nice, nice. And
So I have a lot of people are, you know, when people talk about that song, they usually talk about it in uh, context of somebody that they lost and that they felt the emotion because of their loss as well.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you can definitely hear it like when with the lyrics, like it definitely makes you think of people we lost, and whether it's like our family or Oz. Like I mean, in like one week you had Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan like dying
Yeah.
back to back, and that was like my childhood. Like I grew up a wrestling fan and I idolized Hogan and like listening to rock music, I like Ozzy Osbourne and when they like passed like one day after one another, it was crazy.
So when we did the launch for this album on July 24th in England because that's where Alice was on tour. So we all went over there and we did this big Q&A and also a live broadcast of the record, and and we were interviewed by Sir Tim Rice. You know, he did Jesus Christ Superstar and Evita and all of these millions of great soundtrack lyrics. And he interviewed us, but he showed up backstage with a bag of his original Alice Cooper albums that he bought back in the 70s for us to sign.
Oh my
Like,
God.
oh, really? Uh, so, and it was in this old church that still has services, but they also will let bands play there on occasion and different events. So it was amazing. And then the next night, Alice played at the O2 Arena in London. And,
Okay.
and so word of Ozzy had just come out at that point. And so Johnny Depp showed up and sat in with Alice and his touring band for a rendition of Paranoid,
Yeah.
which the place was going nuts. I mean, thousands of people all singing along. And then right after that, then the original group showed up, a surprise performance for the encore, which is Schools Out and Another Brick in the Wall. But when we came out, the audience were all chanting Ozzy, 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 and it was so loud you would think it was like a World Series baseball game or something. It was very moving.
Yeah, that oh wow. Yeah, that must have been like the whole world mourned Ozzy, because I mean Ozzy went beyond music. Like he was on television and everything, and so like everyone around the world knew who Ozzy was, even if you weren't a rock and roll fan.
Right. He was an iconic personality.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And being on the road as much as you have, like with your own band and the Alice band, is there any funny road story that stands out to you the most?
Oh my God, there's a bazillion of them. I wrote a lot of them in my book, but but I wrote a lot more than what made the final edit in my book. Uh, you know, we had so many adventures that you know, defy reality, really. You know, it's like Michael Bruce says, it just every time you think of something that happened, then it just leads to something else that happened, and then that leads to something else. But uh, I think you know, and this is maybe kind of a typical story, but it comes to mind is as a landmark for me when we played the Hollywood Bowl, because
Hmm.
now it was us coming back to Hollywood after, even though we recorded an album with Frank Zappa, we still, you know, and also even though we had more shows, more gigs than most of the thousands of musicians that had migrated to LA to make it, even though people made fun of us because of the way we looked, walking down the street in the afternoon in full stage outfits, you know, and stuff, hanging out with the GTOs and the Mothers of Invention and all that. But now, but still, we left town kind of, you know, not knowing what we were going to do. We didn't have any money. We were living out of suitcases for a while, but now we're coming back and we're playing the Hollywood Bowl. And so I'm like, okay, this is like, yeah, 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 yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think of us now? You know? So we had everything going. We had a helicopter fly over the crowd and drop paper panties onto the crowd. And we had it was a circus. It was so many things going on. Elton John came backstage and couldn't he couldn't contain himself. He was so excited about the way we dressed. He loved the way we dressed. The camel uh, pooped on stage. So Wolfman Jack, the DJ, rode out on the camel to introduce us. And the camel pooped on stage. And now the union guys from the Hollywood Bowl are back arguing with Shep Gordon about, hey, you know, you have to pay a union guy union wages to go out and clean up that poop. And Shep Gordon is saying, but we don't want it cleaned up. It's a cool night and we want the steam off of the poop as a theatrical prop. And that was a real argument that was going on in the room while Elton John's talking about how great our costumes were. So that, you know, the poop thing is memorable as something unusual. But also the next morning in the Hollywood newspaper, uh, we made the front page with photographs of the homes around the Hollywood Bowl are very affluent, as you could
Hmm.
imagine.
Oh yeah, of course.
And the wind was blowing, or maybe just the blades of the helicopter blew them. But people woke up and there were panties in their trees and all over their lawn and everything. And that's what made the headlines, not our show.
Oh my God, that is hysterical. I love it. And I know you don't sing on like the albums or anything, but if you were gonna do a karaoke song, would you which karaoke song would you choose?
Of my own songs?
Well, of any song, like
Oh,
whether
any
it's
song?
your own song, an Alice
Let's
song, like
see.
or any
Let's
song.
see. Maybe, okay, since we were talking about Dave Davies of the Kinks, how about Sunny Afternoon? because
All right, yeah.
my voice can sound pretty much like Ray Davies on that one. So I do that.
Okay. And when you aren't doing music, what do you like doing during your free time?
Uh, Gardening. I do a lot of gardening because then I can think, and I can and also it reminds me of my grandfather because I went to Oregon and worked on my grandfather's farm the summer of 1964 to get the money to be able to buy my first bass.
Oh, wow.
So I like that, but generally I'm doing everyday stuff that people do, lots of interviews, but every minute I get a chance, then I'm writing new songs. So I've got a couple of new songs in the works. I've got friends that will lay down a drum track. Neil probably would if I ask him. He was in Finland, now he's back home in Connecticut. And then our friends Tish and Snooky, who have Manic Panic, the hair dye company, uh, they're singers. And so they sang on all the Blue Coupe albums that I have with
Oh,
Joe and Albert Bouchard. They've sang on most everything that we do, whether it be in the studio or live. So I work up a demo. I have a new one called Rebel Girl, and
nice.
and it's got some pretty sophisticated background harmonies that Tish and Snooky are going to be uh, recording on the demo. And then I have another one called High Heels Hollywood that they will be singing. So it's always, an artist moves on. People ask me, well, what do you think about the difference between the elected single and the recording that's on the album? I don't really listen to our old stuff unless I need to brush up on a bass part or something,
Well, yeah,
Uh, but it's always moving forward. If an artist isn't moving forward, then you stagnate.
that's true.
You can't
That's
you
true.
can't you can't rely on your past. Like doing this new album. The other saying they have that's somewhat true, I guess, is you're only as good as your last album.
Yes.
So we go in now, you're thinking, wow, what if people don't like this album? That's what they're going to remember about. But that's really just a quick passing thought because we're thinking about is, wow, this sounds good. Let's do this, or as soon as Neil starts playing, it sounds like Alice Cooper. As soon as Michael starts
Mhm.
playing, it sounds like Alice Cooper. So we just sound like Alice Cooper when we play together, and also our humor is pretty. If you wrote down our humor, sarcastic humor doesn't translate well on paper. It looks like you're being mean for the most part, unless you say, and they all laughed, because we revert to being high school kids that made fun of each other all the time. That's
Yeah, yeah.
and the reason we do that is because we're fun. It's fun doing that, and it's kind of like something that we always did when we were kids. So we kind of revert back to being kids when we're together that way. Uh, but also because when you're in the studio and everybody's locking into a song and you're the one that's screwing it up, the pressure can get to you to where you're trying so hard. It's like trying to when the bases are loaded in baseball and you're determined to hit a home run, you're trying too hard and it's harder to hit the ball.
Exactly. Exactly.
But our joking around helps avoid that kind of a situation because it just seems like we're not taking it that seriously, even though we are.
And I guess like the last thing I'll ask you is where could fans follow you and keep up with everything that you got going on?
Oh, I'm easy. Just go to Dennis Dunaway, Facebook. You'll find me there. I have two different sites, both Dennis Dunaway. And it's me that answers. I don't pay somebody to pretend they're me and that kind of thing. So yeah, that works fine. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, but Facebook is where most of the action is.
Awesome. But thank you so much for doing this. I had so much fun talking to you. This was a great chat. Thank you
I
so much
enjoy
for it.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks to your mom and dad for turning you on to our music.
Oh yeah, definitely. That like I said, that was music I was listening to growing up. And I mean I grew up in like the era of like Bon Jovi and Crew and Aerosmith and stuff like that. But I mean I was always listening to Alice Cooper and like Stones and Beatles and
All right.
yeah.
The great thing about that, we dug back when we were young. We dig back to Muddy Waters and Chuck
Mhm.
Berry and Gene Vincent and all those things. And thanks to the vinyl craze that's still hanging on, a lot of young kids are digging back.
Yeah.
It's great.
I know. It's amazing. Well, have an amazing day. And again, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Okay, Rocco. Thank you.
Bye.
Catch. I'll see you again.
Yes,
Road to
definitely.
peace.